Jared Gottberg, and you're watching Illuminated by Obscure Diamond.
Maybe the stage ain't put up, and maybe the lights all burnt out. Stay on your grind, stay tough, 'cause we can see crystal clear now.
How have you been lately dealing with COVID?
I'm still playing. The acoustic shows in the Midwest have been still operating, so it's been difficult for certain, but the band stuff has been halt. I made it happen pretty fast. I'd say 2 or 3 months of truly being out of show work, but being able to implement social distancing measures and be safe, seated at tables and masks and all that. The acoustic shows have still been happening, so that's nice. I think I'm lucky in that regard. That's how I pay the rent, so I had to hop on the horse and find new ways, and I'd say I'm recording more, writing more, and I think every musician out there has been doing that, so I expect to see a surge of art from everybody.
What is the first song you remember hearing as a child?
On this here piano, my dad used to, I don't know if it's in the shot or not, but yeah. So my dad, this was his first big purchase when he got his big boy geneticist job, and he used to play an array of songs, but specifically I remember Gin Blossom's Hey Jealousy. It was so poignant to be hearing my dad play music that it really stuck with me. But the first record I probably ever heard would have been Michael Jackson's Thriller. My mom we had a cassette player back in those days.
What was the first instrument you learned and which followed?
Piano, started at 5 and took lessons for years and years. When I picked up the guitar, I kind of started ignoring everything else for a long time, but it also led me to the more rock-oriented instruments, bass, the drums, and I started teaching myself instruments just from watching others do it. Like just recently, I learned how to play the accordion for a track. Saxophone is one I want to get back into. I took some saxophone lessons when I was really young.
How old were you when you first started writing music?
Right away. Yeah, there was scribbles as early as 5. First, it was primitive, if you will. I vividly remember me and Seth, my brother, we would create album artwork and then we would sing all the time. And I think we had just discovered NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, and we were all about being a boy band there for a little bit.
When did you realize you wanted to pursue a career in music?
Just when I first started, I don't think I ever fell out of love. It's always been the number one thing that I strive for. And my father and my mom, they both were like, you need to do music. I was always plunking around on this piano, and I've got photos somewhere of me 2 or 3 years old just sitting on the piano and loving it. And
when was your first concert performance?
Library Latte in Gretna. I played with Mark Irvin. Yep, he invited me to join a bunch of really talented people, and I think it was 14 or 15. We did Hotel California, and on the spot he showed me the chords for Sweet Home Alabama. And he's like, just go, dude. And I'm like, prefer to practice these things, but okay, I'm on stage now.
What was the first concert you attended?
Styx, Peter Frampton, Night Ranger in Asia. I vividly remember getting to our seats about the time Peter Frampton was on, seeing his prowess and Do You Feel Like We Do, him playing that solo and that timeless song. That was wow factor. Then Styx came on, and them with their powerful show, and I grew up loving Styx. I was 11, I think. Seeing that for the first time, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
What has been your favorite concert experience?
Stone Temple Pilots, probably. I love STP. Iron Maiden. It's hard to go wrong there. They came out with Ghost, and that was the first time I got to really hear Ghost, let alone see him, and that really impressed me. But man, it's hard to say. Opeth, seeing Opeth live was a pivotal, life-changing point.
Who are your biggest influences?
Pink Floyd, for sure. Led Zeppelin, Alan Parsons, both his musical prowess and his writing, and his prowess as an engineer as well. A lot of 90s stuff, a lot of grunge, just a mix of a bunch of different types of rock. And now like I mentioned, I'm getting more into hip hop and things that I haven't really listened to much in the past, and it's definitely morphing the way I do things.
How would you describe your current taste of music?
More eclectic than it used to be, I hope. I think I'm geared, after working in studios so often now, more sonically towards music. I haven't discovered a lot of new music. I'm pretty bad at that. I get stuck on a record and I will beat it to death just to analyze every detail of it. Pink Floyd. I can put a Pink Floyd record on that I've heard 10,000 times and hear it another 10,000, still find little things that are in there. And the new Deftones record took a lot of my time this year. Anything Zeppelin, not only sonic recordings, but compositions that wow me. So that kind of finding that happy medium there where it all comes together, and these timeless records, found a new appreciation for hip hop, and it took me forever to get on that train because I've been stuck in rock and roll forever. And then being able to work with some artists and be a part of some hip hop stuff, I really have been kind of digging back deep into the roots of that, the origin of samples, and NWA blows my mind. I love Dre. I do. That's been new for me, but it's old for everyone else. I'm just late to the party.
Who are your favorite locals?
I love my power trio brothers, Long Awaited and Gallivant, both. I just adore both of those groups, and not to mention their music, but the guys as well. Sebastian Lane, one of my favorite guitar players on any level, not just local, but we're lucky to have him locally. Punch Clock Martyrs with Patrick Conrad. They do just a brand of music that I'm so entertained by because it's something that I don't listen to a lot, and I would if I could. There needs to be more Punch Clock Martyrs music for sure.
What has been your favorite collaboration?
Man, that's a tough one. The Bourbon Diaries recently was in Mexico City, creating an entire album in the span of 6 days with numerous guests. I mean, it's a truly collaborative project. So far, that's probably been my favorite experience because it was so much in so little time, and the caliber of every person that walked in that room was unbelievable.
If you could have any 5 collabs, dead or alive, who would they be?
God, that's hard. Roger Waters. I would love to make music with him. And then David Gilmour. I'm going to use them as 2 answers and then a third answer, and both of them. I'm Pink Floyd obsessed. Alan Parsons, that would be a dream. To work with Rick Rubin as a producer would be amazing.
How did Grebtog Studios come about?
So Grebtog Studios, it's Gottberg backwards with one less T, but that's actually what everyone calls my father. And my father and I own this studio together. This room being inside of Grebtog Studios, it's an experience, it's a family thing. This room was built by my father, my 2 grandfathers, my godfather. I held the drywall and chewed bubblegum, but when we built it, I was probably 14 years old, 15 years old, taken a lot of years of birthdays and Christmases and things like that to build enough to operate, and then from there we've turned it into the business. Over time, I learned the gear, and that was kind of my end of things, was learning how to fill it and operate it. David Montoya Robles down in Mexico City was easily the most brilliant engineer I've ever worked with, and trying to apply some of the things that I was watching him doing to my own room is really something that I think is going to keep me sharp. And I still have so much to learn as a producer, so much to learn as an engineer. The way that it's changed the way I write music and view music and understand about music is just immeasurable. We are lucky to have consistent clients that don't go elsewhere. They enjoy the atmosphere here. It's not really strict. If you just spend a couple extra minutes, I'm not one of those guys that's going to charge you for the extra 5 minutes or say, no, it's 2 hours because you ran over 5 minutes. And I've been in studios like that, and it almost puts a damper on, the heartbeat that you have in the studio. The family aspect is so important here. Oftentimes, my mom will be upstairs making dinner for people that are working here, and the people that support us and come through and are willing to pay for me helping them make their art. Haven't met better people in my life.
How did the party after?
Derek, the drummer, and myself met, 8th grade, And I think the first time we played together was at Library Latte in Gretna. And he was 15, I was 16. Played in show choir together senior year, and then we started a band called A Wasted Effort. After going through a couple member changes, Derek and I got Tony as the bass player, and Tony, he's stuck with us ever since. And then there was this period of a couple years where it felt like we kept getting stepped on. We were robbed on tour in San Antonio. We had an ex-member of the band issue us legal documents to cease and desist with the name and the content. After that, we just decided to start something fresh, and really, truly, the party after comes from the idea it's the party after wasting our effort.
What was the creative process behind Groundhogs?
It was maybe the first week that we were all locked down and panicking because we didn't know what was going on. We were all in this spot where almost as a whole human race, we were too afraid to make a move because we didn't have any idea what to expect. And really the song is about ignorance is bliss as well. It's a B-side song. It wasn't even meant to be a single. The more that I was playing it, I got this really goofy idea for a music video of like woodland creatures just partying. Brought the vision to Thom Hazard, and when I pitched it to them, then they took it and ran with it in different ways for sure, and added to it quite a bit. And he liked it enough to pull the trigger on it with me. And very lucky to work with Ellefson Films, Dave Ellefson, as well as Johnny Bros Creative Studios, animation beasts. But that video was, it was in my head, and then now it's physical. Yeah, I think it's just fun because it's a song called Groundhogs with a music video about a crazy little groundhog doing some crazy groundhog things.
How did Introspective originate?
So with Introspective came together really pretty quick. A couple of those songs I had written years ago when A Wasted Effort first was robbed, and we had to kind of hit the reset button. Derek started his YouTube channel, and I started playing acoustic shows just because I didn't want to stop making money on music. The acoustic shows led me to writing this kind of sweeter side. I've always been in metal bands and played as fast and as hard as I could. It really helped even me out. And with Introspective, just about every song comes from childhood memories and nostalgia. Bringing guests in was something that I really wanted to do. Like I said, I love collaborating. It's one of my favorite things in the world. And I think that it turned that record into something that everyone that was a part of it, I feel like I hope they're all proud of it. They should be. It's a very sweet, bittersweet nostalgia kind of record. And a lot of the stories are about my childhood. So it was something that I really enjoyed making.
What is your favorite aspect of performing live and a cherished memory?
My favorite part of performing is crowd interaction. And I love acoustic shows for that reason. At a certain level, you don't necessarily become disconnected from your crowd, but being able to be personal one-on-one with the individuals in your crowd, I really enjoy that. Great memories of friends showing up and being able to actually banter with me, and that's always a lot of fun. It brings a different side to the show. My favorite memory of performing was probably in San Francisco. We played a Raw showcase at Ruby Sky, which is just a beautiful, beautiful venue. And I remember it being a particularly hard day on the road. It was kind of one of those moments where it just reminded me exactly why us artists go through so much stupid stuff, just to have that feeling you get when you get on stage and are making incredible music. And they had a catwalk, so that was really neat. And I remember getting out and having just a swarm of people around while I was just kind of that moment of clarity where I just was like, yep, this is what I need to be doing. No matter how difficult it is, it's what I need to be doing.
If you could only be a studio musician or a live performer, which would it be?
I couldn't even imagine having to choose. Two vastly different worlds that I am so deeply in love with, in both ways. I recognize that there's going to come a day where I think playing live will take too much out of me, and it really takes a toll on your body. My social anxiety is probably a factor in that too, but I couldn't imagine not being able to just sit down and play in a room, like in the studio, and organizing things sonically and creating layers. It's I'm absolutely in love with that. But I also never want to stop playing live. You know, I just recognize that there will be a day where it probably becomes too much for me.
How would you describe your growth within music?
You know, full circle, perfect circle style. Yeah, it's the more that I learn about music, and the more that I apply not only the mathematics behind it, but the true intricate design that music truly is. I feel like I grow a lot as a person, like morally, consciously. It's never-ending stream of lessons. You know, it really is. Not only appreciate, but be able to create artwork like that. The more you do it, the more you start to see the little cracks that make up the painting. You know, the little tiny lines, those little details that you tend to miss. And knowledge is one of the most important things I think that we have. Not to mention trying to find some sort of unity. I think the easier it is to be able to make connections with people, and that's why it's such a universal language too. It's a beating heart and it's a brain all at the same time.
How did the Bourbon Diaries start?
So that's very fresh, but we hit the ground running. Very, very lucky to have met Steve Peters. He moved back from Mexico City. You know, he's lived all over the world. He's got all sorts of experience that I do not have, and he wanted to make a transition from managing artists to being an artist yet again. He once was a local musician here in Omaha. He's played on some very big stages, but he hadn't played in almost a decade. He was really hungry to get back after it, and kind of like I did with what we were just talking about. He stockpiled his own set of knowledge and resources. He had been asking around, and a couple people brought my name up, and I don't know how he found me, but I sat down next to him at the bar one day, really, and we started talking about music, and he was like, let's go jam. So we go jam. I don't see him for a month or so, and he gives me a message, and he's like, hey, can you come to Mexico City? And I'm like, I don't have a passport. You know? So he brought out some very, very talented people from LA and Vegas, and we did 2 songs here in Omaha in 2 days. And that was kind of the uncorking of it all. You know, since then we've been to Vegas and went to Nashville and then Mexico City. You know, that's been my last 2 months. It's been travel with the Bourbon Diaries. He's opened up a whole world to me. You know, it's amazing, and I'm lucky that he chose my voice. You know, I am.
How does the Bourbon Diaries develop music?
One of the tracks, oh my gosh, we had so much fun. Claudio and I both started jamming outside, and we wrote a song on the spot. We had a lot of fun making that one because it wasn't meant to be anything more than just a fun piece that will probably accompany with a video. But we got really experimental with auxiliary percussion and ad-libs and just goofing off. And we brought a choir in, assembled a choir of just wonderful singers, and we're utilizing engineering techniques that are akin to like Planet Caravan by Black Sabbath. The vocal effects he uses running through a specific speaker. I turned to David, the engineer, and I said, this is kind of what I want on that song. I want the Planet Caravan. He goes, we have that speaker. Utilizing pieces of gear from different eras. You know, I got to sing on a mic from the 50s. It's amazing the amount of fun we had and the freedom that we let each other have. The egos were totally out of the room, and everyone was there to serve the song and have fun doing it. And I think that's why the artwork came out so well.
What hobbies do you have outside of music?
Drinking. Baseball, man. I still love baseball. Literally dream about playing still. When I can, I like to play basketball. I'm try to stay as healthy as I can, even it all out. If I had time for video games, I would probably play video games, but I don't have time for video games, so I do not play video games. Drinking, that's my...
What are some of your favorite TV series or movies?
So, my favorite movie of all time is Wayne's World, Ridley Scott's Legend. I've been watching this show called The Magicians. I've always been kind of into fantasy as a kid. I literally live in the clouds all day long. But that show has just surprised me. They bring so many different pieces of lore and the way that they intertwine them all. Every single episode's a whole new adventure. I love that series. Movie-wise, Deadpool. I love the Deadpool movies.
What is the best purchase you've ever made?
Just recently, we bought for the studio. We bought a Taylor, a beautiful, beautiful Taylor acoustic guitar. It's a Grand Auditorium 414 CE. Just the most beautiful thing I think I've ever owned. I would cuddle with that guitar, and I'm not even kidding. I love it so much.
What was the worst investment you have made?
College. I'm not kidding. College. That was a waste of time.
What was the dumbest way you have injured yourself?
Oh, God. Oh, man. So many things come to mind on this one. A couple years back, we were having a beer Olympics. They enjoyed tickling me. They like to hold me down and see me squirm. And they tickled me into a dislocated rib. And that was one of my own volition. That was their fault. But yeah, I'm apparently a fragile Sasquatch.
What are some upcoming projects and goals for 2021?
A lot of what's been going on is I've spent years trying to put together my formulas that work so well with the solo stuff or with the party after. The Bourbon Diaries is it's a whole different formula that I'm working on now too. But there's about to be a lot of material coming out. I've been kind of stockpiling the knowledge, I think, for a long time. I'm expecting to be on 6 or 7 records this year. The Party After has just about an entire record written. Got a new solo record that I'm working on. The Bourbon Diaries has a record finished. We're waiting on the mixes and masters. And then myself and Mr. Logan Corbino from the long-awaited. 3 songs left to do vocals and touch-ups on. And then we have an entire record ready to release as well. It's been nice almost to step back from playing as much, because I've had an opportunity to get in the studio more and get things done. So the content's going to be nicer, more of it. And then when the big shows start happening again, got some plans for that as well that we'll talk about soon.
Hell yeah. I think we can call that it.
I think that's a good note to end it on right there.
Yeah, man.
I am one long-winded boy.